gosh, I've been trying to figure out how many years back Roxy and I go, and it's got to be at least 30. At least, yeah, and that's all we're admitting to. But my name is Marge Lindsay, and I am, proud to be here with you today and presenting some of these different ideas, hopefully, and some concepts to you that are going to help you make some money. And that's the primary objective. Now, what I'm curious about, though, is I don't want it to be so formal that you can't relax and enjoy this. And I want you to know that, this truly is a program that West USA asked us to put on for you, in conjunction with the awards banquet and so many of the other things that we have. So we don't have hours, we don't have a commissioner that we have to worry about as far as, the timelines and the guidelines and so forth. So it is intended to be your class today. So as you have questions, feel free to ask them. That's what I want you to feel comfortable with, because it is okay. But one of the things that would help me tremendously is in knowing and understanding a little bit about each of you and why you're here today. I started off real flippantly saying, oh, well, you're here to see me. Right. Especially for those of you who don't even know who I am. That's okay. But my question is, what are you hoping to get out of the class today? What are your goals? What were you looking for? What were your thoughts when you signed up for this segment and decided to come in here? Tell me some of the things you would like. And don't all speak at once. Come on.
I'll be a guinea pig. Let's hoping to see something maybe different or new.
Okay. Just something different, something new. And how long have you been in the real estate business?
11 years.
11 years? Okay, good. Lucky 11.
Yeah.
Yes.
How to deal with this market.
How to deal with this market?
Yes.
What, are there some challenges? What? Yeah, and that's an honest question. That's a good question. It's kind of interesting. We went from hearing, oh my gosh, things are so bad, you can't sell anything, you can't do anything, the inventory's so horrible, we can get listings all over the place, they're never going to sell. Oh, so what are we hearing now? The market's improved, the market's good, you can't get listings because they don't need us. So it's like, oh my gosh. So how long have you been in the business?
10 years.
10 years? Okay. So yeah, so you've seen some changes. You've seen some real changes. Absolutely. Okay. So what do we do in this market? What's working for people? Because we still have a lot of salespeople that are making a boatload of money. I want to watch anything I say because Mark is taping it. So and we're not, we don't have that bleep effect that I'm aware of. But yeah, we really do. We have some ups and some downs that we're working with. So that's what we're going to work with.
You can let it ring, Mark. I got the bleeper.
Oh, you got the bleeper? So if I say a bad word, you're going to get it out of there for me? I would never think of that. That's my first lie for the day. Okay, what else are you looking for? Jane, did you have your hand up?
Oh, yes. And this might not be the class to ask it, but to glean from you all your years of training in, going back to the fundamentals and I think what I feel like is the West USA offer is a very concise presentation, listing presentation, you're competing with listings.
Okay.
And whether or not you're technology savvy, which I am not, how do you compete with, I think you need.
No, those are very good.
Could you repeat her question? She has such a soft voice, I can't hear.
Yes, I will.
Sorry?
Yeah, she said you have such a soft voice she couldn't hear. But yeah, basically, okay, we're competing. She said one of the things that she would like to see is what is West USA going to do, if anything, as far as listing presentations and some of the tools and staying ahead of the curve, if you will. Is there anything that you can look for from the company from that standpoint, and how then you might be able to position yourself more positively against your competition? I've got some good news for you on that one. So don't let me forget it. Because it's not a pre-planned part of this. And when I push you off, if I do, as I'm just doing with Jane right this minute, if I push you off, it's not because what you're asking me isn't important, but because I want to discuss it at another point in the program this morning. So please don't let me get out of here without saying, now wait a minute, back up, lady. You know, let's go back to this because we will. I do want to share with you some things that we're planning when it comes to that. What else? What else were you looking for? Yes.
Well, I have to say this, in 1993, when I was a new agent in Valley, I went to Coldwell Banker's Fast Track or something.
Fast Start.
Fast Start with you, and you were amazing, and you have left a lasting imprint on me almost 20 years. And I wanted to come, and I'm a West USA agent now, and hear
Well,
what new
see?
things you're going to teach me.
I got smart. I'm a West USA agent now, too. Thank you. That was very nice. Thank you. Yeah, you notice I moved to the Fast Start.
It's true.
So, thank you. Yeah. Well, and see, here we are, 20 years later, and she's still doing it with a smile on her face. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, you don't see many clients.
Well, hopefully you don't show it in front of them. I was good with gestures and with words when they weren't there, just to vent some of the frustrations.
I love it, or I wouldn't still be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was talking to Mark this morning while he was setting things up to tape this, and I said, I'm finishing something now because we just hired another brand new licensee with the company, and she wanted to know something about what the training program is going to entail and what my experience level was. Well, let me share with you that this year is my 40th year as a realtor. I hide it because I color my hair. I don't even know what the real color is anymore. I really don't. But yeah, it's 40 years, and I've got to tell you, as I told her in the email response, I still love it. I really do. I still enjoy it. It's been great. Have there been challenges? Just a couple. Not many, but just a couple. Of course there are challenges. You know, I heard, were some of you here yesterday for the orientation? Okay, because Bob kept saying, it's easy, it's easy. Well, bless his heart, I'm trying to figure out what he's smoking. So I only say it that way because to me, it's the hardest working, highest paid job you will ever have, or it can be the easiest non-paying position you've ever had too. The only one who's going to determine that is you. And whether you're 10 years, 11 years in the business, how many of you are more than 11 years? Okay, keep your hands up for a second. How many?
12.
12.
40.
40.
32.
32. Are you just a baby?
34.
34? And 20? Yeah, okay, so we've got a lot of years of experience in here, and we really have seen some major changes. I will tell you that from my perspective, I don't think in my 40 years we have ever had a market as challenging as the one we are just now recovering from. Even with RTC and all of the changes back in the 80s and the folding of the savings and loans and everything else, I honestly believe this was the biggest challenge and some of the tough things. One of the other things that I did, and as recent as this morning, was actually, or I was making a couple of changes in this PowerPoint to put it together for you quickly, was in the last several days, I've actually made some calls. And a lot of you who know me and have had classes before know I'll do that all the time, and talk with the highest producers. And, you know, people that we hear about, people that we know, some in our market, some in other markets, to say, okay, what is working for you? You know, what are you doing now? What's the most, important thing? This afternoon, I hope many of you will have an opportunity to be here because we hear about those Callaways all the time. And the two stools are for Joseph and Joanne Callaway, who will be here with us this afternoon. And, we're just very proud to have them come in and share. What makes them unique? Well, let's see. They sold over $1 billion, that is with a B as in boy. They sold over $1 billion worth of real estate in less than 10 years in the business. Unprecedented. We've got a lot of superstars who can't claim that, and they're well on their way to over $2 billion in sales. Think we can learn from them? Mm-hmm. And rather than me say, here's what Joseph said, here's what Joanne said, here's what they're doing, I'll let them share it with you firsthand. And they're no holds barred. They said, I don't care. If somebody wants to ask us a question, we'll talk about it. Now, one of the other things that I did want to ask, is there anybody in here who is not with West USA Realty? Which company?
My own.
Okay. Well, welcome. And the reason I ask that is do not use specific figures then when it comes to commissions. I mean, if we get into any discussion there, because we don't want antitrust, or price fixing discussions or issues. So we're very proud to have you with us, that's fine. But you can say apples, bananas, oranges, ice cream, beer, whatever you want to say, but we don't want to use dollar figures because we could put ourselves in a risky position if we do that. So, okay, what else? Anything else that you're looking for in this program this morning? No? Well, okay, I'm quitting. No. One of the things that I will share with you too, I may sit down. And I don't know, I'm going to let you know. And the only reason I'm saying that, I will find out a week from today when I'm having surgery. And it seems that I'm going to have 2 back surgeries in one day, which is fun. They said a fusion and a rod. And I thought, oh, what the heck. If they gave me 3, third time's the charm, what they say. So if it bothers me a little bit, I may sit down. It's not because I disrespect you, and I hope you'll understand that. So I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, some of the things that we're going to do as we start out here when we say, get your head out of the sand. In a program that we did here recently, I won't mention you, Dan, and the fact that you were in that class, but one of the things that I shared with that class as we were finishing is the national statistics tell us that most agents, well over 85% right now, will be out of the real estate business before they complete their first licensing renewal period. That's really high. That's really high, but you know what? It's been a lot higher than that. That's not shocking to me, and I'm sure it's not shocking to those of you who've been in the business a good number of years, because you've seen people come in and come out or go out all the time. Well, a lot of them, when I say put their head in the sand, one of the things that Dan knows, it's called tough love, or I think they called me a witch one time. No. Is saying to them, at this rate, in this class, that means only 2 of you are going to survive. Only 2, if the statistics are true. Well, at the end of the program, I said, you know what? Good luck if you have even one of you who will survive. And I told him, here's why. Not one of you has done the homework that I've assigned. Well, Dan was a little bit of an exclusion, but he got the flu, and we did cut him some slack, and that's why I'm saying, has he made up for it since? Yeah, but, they didn't do the reading. They didn't go out and do the exercises. They didn't do anything. Well, you know what? That's up to them, not me. I can't make you a success. I can't motivate you. All I can do is give you some of the tools and the resources, and whether you do it or not is going to depend solely on you. Now, so I don't forget, one of the things that, Jane said is, okay, what is it that West USA is going to do and not do? Well, one of the things that I really am a big proponent of is, printed material. People respond well to printed material. I looked at, and this isn't an indictment against West USA, one of the reasons they brought me on board is hoping to have some new ideas and some new concepts and so forth. And one of the things that I said to them is I want 2 things, and one is a formal listing presentation of some sort that we can work with, that we can provide to you. Second is a pre-listing package that you can work with your clients on prior to the actual listing itself. Now, I have given them meaning the company and our graphics artist and so forth, I've given them some materials and said, okay, here's what I want you to do, here's what I want you to, do. I want you to pretty it up, and to make it nicer and this sort of thing. Now, I do not know how quickly they will be able to do that. It is important to them. They do want to give you the tools. They do want to give you the resources. But they also have an awful lot on their plate right at this moment with a number of other things that are happening. So that will be coming. That will be coming. When it is, we're going to let you know so that you can take advantage of it. And the feeling was, we'll put it online and they can print it out, they can make it, you can personalize it, because that's what you're going to want to do. Could you use what we give you and do nothing more? And the answer is yes. But how much better when you personalize it and it's got your picture, your photograph, those types of things in there that you can work with. And in a little bit, we'll talk more about some of the pre-listing packages and things of this sort, because to some, I know that's a foreign idea and a different concept. So that is coming. I hope sooner than later, but I don't know. So anyway, that's the best I can tell you right at this moment. Okay, but when we say get your head out of the sand, there are a lot of people who are saying, well, there's nothing we can do. There are a lot of people, a lot of our peers who've said, well, you know what, I'm just going to go out of the business now for a little while. I'll go get a real job, and then I'll come back when the market improves. We've seen that and heard that for decades. I mean, that's not a new idea and a new concept. But what's interesting is that those who've been here and those who've stayed and those who've really worked with this are doing an incredible job. I mean, they really are. And you find ways to make it positive, you find ways to make it productive, and you just rethink things. One of the examples that I have frequently used was Russell Shaw, and that might be a name that many of you have heard. And Russ is, honestly, he's a very good friend, and it was a lot of fun for us because when the market changed, he said, I'm not going to do those bleep short sales. I'm not going to get involved with those bleep REOs. And I understood the words he used, but I've forgotten them right this minute. Anyway, he said, I'm not going to do it. It's not something I'm interested in. I don't want to get involved. I don't remember exactly, but I don't think it was much more than 2 months when he said, yep, tell you what. And his comment was, I have a 52-inch waist that I need to maintain. And the only way you can do that is if you put food in it. And the only way you can put food in it is if you have the money to buy the groceries to do it. So I'm going to get involved in short sales. I'm going to get involved in REOs. Why? Because that was the market. That was the market. So it's like, okay, I can say I'm not going to do it and don't have to, but he said, you know what, I've got to do it. And has he mastered it? Absolutely. Is he still making a net of over 7 figures every year? And the answer is yes. But he had to adapt to the market. And a lot of salespeople won't. Now, you don't have to make $1 million plus a year to be a success. What that number is something that you can determine for yourselves individually. And I don't care if it's 20,000, that's great. I don't care if it's 50,000, that's okay. I don't know what your obligations are or what it is that you want to accomplish. You can do that individually. But you don't want to keep your head in the sand, as so many of our competitors have done. Okay. Now, one of the things that's going to help you tremendously is if you start adjusting to today's consumer. And when I say that, we don't often think in terms of different personalities and different people. We kind of sort of broad brush everybody at one time. And when I say we broad brush everybody, okay, it's another buyer. It's another seller. Doesn't matter what the age is. They've got needs. I'm going to go out. I'm going to hopefully find what they want. I'm going to fulfill those needs. Well, it honestly isn't that way any longer. There are a lot of things that have changed over the years. Age factor is very important when we start thinking in terms of, how do you communicate with them? What is it that you do? This sort of thing. I still remember the first time my daughter called me and she said, oh my gosh, there is hope. And I said, for what? And she said, you. And I said, what? She said, I didn't know you knew how to text. Well, it was the first text I'd ever sent. To this day, unless she sees this tape, she won't know that I've admitted it was the first one I had ever done, and I had to ask questions as I went through it. I didn't know. Well, anyway, she now thinks there's hope for her mom because maybe I've learned how to do something. Now, when we start talking about how they are and their ages and so forth. This is where you want to start looking at some of this, where we say, okay, we have different groups. You often hear people talk about the baby boomers. And typically, they are people who are born between 1946 and 1964. Now, if you've heard slightly different dates, let me tell you what's kind of fun. We teach a lot of this in one of the GRI modules, where we spend even more time on it. And people do want to argue about, well, no, here's this age or here's that age, or no, I think you've got your dates wrong. So I decided I'm not even going to listen to what the curriculum writers for GRI said or the research that we had or anything else. So I decided to go online and search it out. I found no less than 3 dates for every category. Nobody has anything that I saw that was conclusive. The fun part for me with this is my brother was born in 1945. My husband was born in 1942. He'd love me telling you this. And they're saying, well, wait a minute, you don't even have us on there. We're baby boomers. No, they aren't. They're referred to as matures. Well, they didn't like that. Neither of them liked it. So whether it's Dave or Pat, they didn't think that was too cute. They would prefer to say they're baby boomers. So I said, you know what? If that makes you feel good, go for it. I don't care. But anyway, we're saying, you've got this group that we hear so much about with the baby boomers who were born during this time frame. And then you hear a lot about the Generation X and the Generation Y who are aging at the same time. Well, they all have different wants, different needs, different mindsets and attitudes as, they're developing and as we start working with them. And we need to be in tune with where they are and who they are. Now, we're also saying, you've got to get ready for generations X and Y. And some of you, definitely, all I have to do is look, and some of you fall into this X and Y category. And to you, it really is kind of fun, I suspect, saying, yeah, my parents don't know how to do this, or maybe my parents are even younger than you and they do know how, and a lot of times it's kind of fun to make sport of us if we have not stayed up with it. I will tell you, and I can't remember if it was Jane earlier, somebody said something about being technologically challenged. Me too. Now, if I were out listing and selling today, it'd be an entirely different issue because I would have to have forced myself to learn a heck of a lot more in that arena, but that's where you are. So you've got to learn how to use those tools. Now, some have said, no, I don't have to. I don't have to at all. I'm going to do business the way I've always done business, and if they don't like it, they being the prospective clients, then that's how it is. Well, you know what? That's one of the other benefits of our industry. You can make that decision if you want to make that decision. You can pick those choices if that's what you want to do. But if you're planning to stay in it and you really want to maximize this, then you need to know how to get a hold of them. Some of the observations says when you're working with Generation X, you want to be an advisor when you're working with them. Building relationships is extremely important to them. What's kind of interesting with the X's and Y's is they will oftentimes trust their friends more than they're going to trust you. They rely on their friends more than they're going to rely on you. And with some of us, we'll say, oh gosh, that's just what I want. It's his college roommate tracking along and, giving him opinions. You better change your mindset because that's important to them. That really is. That's important to them. They will trust their friends first. And rely on them first. So you better embrace them and win them over and get them on your side if this is something you want to work with. You start talking negatively or trying to find reasons and whys to get rid of them, they will eliminate you. That's a fact. So that's something we have to think about. Now, the one thing, the important expectations of all of these generations, they want to know that you know your stuff. They want to know that you have some market knowledge. They want to know that you have negotiation experiences. And there have been so many consumer focus groups that have been put together that address this on a regular basis. And negotiations, interestingly enough, is one of the strongest things that they're looking for. They want somebody who can negotiate aggressively on their behalf. So, you're going to have to work with them from that perspective also. Now, some of the strategies. Here's an example. We could call it solution marketing. And I know you're not going to be able to read this, but I'm going to share it with you. But when we talk about solution marketing, it's saying what you want to do, because we're talking about how you're going to make more money. Solution marketing says identify a problem and then figure out a way to address it. Figure out a way that you're going to be able to attack it. And solution marketing is one of those things. Well, here's a couple, and if you look at this, it just says when a house is no longer a home. And then it says the professionals real estate team, and that's how they're referring to themselves. And it says, we have the skill and qualifications to accommodate your client's real estate needs. And then over on the left-hand side, it says specialties, special master for sale of property, divorce listings, sales and finding. And finding new residents, valuation analysis, 1031 exchanges. In other words, what they are saying over here are these are the specialties and the things that we do. So they have said, okay, people who, at least at this time, were involved with 1031 exchanges, that could be a problem. Well, we're telling them we've got the knowledge and expertise. Divorces, gosh, we don't hear anything about that anymore, do we? But they said, here are the things that we specialize in. Here are the things that we do. So that's what they're doing. They're saying, here's who we are, and this is their idea of solution marketing as they penetrate people to let them know what their areas of expertise are. On the right-hand side of the card then, where it talks about her, she is an attorney at law. She has 16 years of experience in real estate, in practice. She is a broker. She does work with seniors as a specialty, and she gives an email address. He has a Stanford MBA, is also a broker, and that's it. So in other words, they're not saying a whole lot about themselves, a little bit, but they're not saying a whole lot about themselves. They are into what we refer to as solution marketing. I've identified some areas where I think I can help, and that's what I want to tout. Now, other things, when we say, okay, if you have a single message, you want advertising that tells a story. Now, this is one area, and I've shared this with some of you in the past, I am lousy at writing ads. I never was when I was active, as a listing and a selling agent. That just was not an area of expertise or, where I had any real talent. So I worked with other people who helped me with that. I bought books, that had advertising ideas and would steal the best ideas that I could afford to buy. So you just make up for those deficiencies somehow, some way. But we're saying it has to tell a story, be memorable, impactful, and it's not or is non-product related. In other words, you're not talking about a specific home, when you do something like this. Now, here's an example of something, speaking of, Coldwell Banker, but it's a lady over in the Mission area, and it says, if you're mailing, tell a story. That's what I'm saying to you. So if you're doing a mailing, you want to tell some kind of a story. And she's saying low Mission inventory, because she's in Mission Valley, equals a seller's market. So again, when we start talking about what the message is, okay, when we have low inventory, it becomes a seller's market. And what she did, when we say it's non-product related, she says in here, if you put your property on the market now, it faces historically low competition, and that's good for sellers. There were 32% fewer properties for sale, and she goes on. That means that more buyers are competing for fewer properties, which can mean competing offers and higher selling prices. Analysts are predicting whatever. And then she says, in the past 20 years, I've sold more than 200 homes in the Mission area. If you're thinking of selling and want to discuss timing and strategy, just give me a call. In other words, she's telling a story. Here's what it is, but it is non-product related. Now, what I'm going to do here is stop for just a second and say that there are a number of different things that we can do. When you're saying, give me some new ideas, give me some thoughts. Everything that we talk about comes back to, okay, what do we do in today's market to get that inventory? Well, clearly open houses is one of those areas.